Tov, but this is it's Hine Matov, how nice it is technically for brothers to be together, which is kind of a derivation from this week's Torah portion where Joseph reunites with his brothers. And it comes from Psalm 133, I think, on page 10. Yeah, Psalm 133.
All right. Okay. It goes like this. Join in.
Page 2. I'm just making sure I can get the tune. You know what? Maybe we'll just say it. What we can. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Page 24. Shalom Alechem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Roachem Leshalom, Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Archuni Leshalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Baruch Hu.
We continue with Kabbalat Shabbat on page 13. Turn back a little bit. Page 13, Psalm 96. This is the beginning of the psalm.
Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, Baruch Hu Shemo, Basru miyom leyom, Yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai, Shir Shemo, Basru miyom leyom, Yeshuato. Ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la ya la la la, ya la la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
And on page 20, Lechadodi, we welcome in Shabbat with light. We welcome in the Shabbat messengers with Shalom Alechem, and now we welcome in the Shabbat presence with Lechadodi on page 20, paragraphs 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we get to 9, we rise, we turn to the door, we greet as if to greet the Shabbat presence. We'll use this door.
Lechadodi. Whoops. Sorry, I did that wrong. 1 second. That was the right tune. Lechadodi. That'll be a better key. Likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi. Likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. It's okay. You want me to take it up a little bit? I can do that. All right. Here we go. Okay, we're a comfortable bunch, right? We could do this. Lechadodi. Better? Likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi. Likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmianu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lechadodi. Likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi. Likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha. Rosh Likrat Allah b'nei Shabbat nekabelam. Rodef Shalom ateret balam gam besimcha ובצוהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה.
Since you're standing, please take a moment to wish someone Shabbat Shalom. Maybe introduce yourself to someone that you've not met before. Psalm for Shabbat is Psalm 92 on page 22.
So, what I'd like to do, since you're a singing crowd, is we're going to start with a nice, with the words after Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat at the beginning, Tov Lahodot Ladonai. It is good to praise Adonai, and we'll go about 4 lines with that, and then we're going to skip to where it's indented, and probably a melody that I think many of you will know. So, but we're going to switch melodies too. Tov lehodot ladonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot ladonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Leagid baboker chastecha ve'emunatcha balelot. Leagid baboker chastecha ve'emunatcha balelot. Tov lehodot. Tov lehodot ladonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot ladonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. skip to the bottom. Ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 da. It's Tzadik. Tzadik atamar yifrach ke'eres balvanon yizke. Tzadik atamar yifrach ke'eres balvanon yizke. To'elim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu. V'shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu leftzrichu. La la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la.
Page 26.
Yikadal v'yikadash meraba ve'lemad yivrach rotei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala u'v'zman kariv yimeru amen. Yesh meraba mevorach le'olam le'al me'al maya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha B'rechu le'ela min kol barchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nekemata Damiran bi'alma ve'imeru. Amen.
Please rise as you're able, and we turn to page 28.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
The next page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim v'chochma potech sha'arim u'v'tvuna meshana itim u'machalif et hazmanim u'misader et hakochavim v'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono v'reyom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or u'ma'avir yom u'mevi layla Umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. Achai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. On the next page, read together in English. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we'll meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai.
Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
Continuing on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושינתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידיך, והיו לתותחות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
On page 39 at the top of the page, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and together, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. We turn the page for Micha Mocha.
Micha Mocha, Bailim Adonai, Micha Mocha, Neder B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilot, Oseh Velev, Nora Tehilot, Oseh Velev, Malechutecha Ra'uvanecha, Bokei Ayam Lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zeli, Zeli, Anu, V'yamru, Zeli, Zeli, Anu, V'yamru, Adonai Yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai Yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar kifad Adonai et Yaakov go'alo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Turning the page.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu lechaim.
In the midst of this prayer, Hashkivenu, and we ask God to spread over us a shelter of peace at nighttime. When we're feeling alone or frightened or in pain, emotional, spiritual, physical pain. We ask God for this extra protection, and we're also asking God to send healing, complete refuah shlema, body or spirit, to all these whose names I have, and then I'll open up if you have any other names you can add it. Especially asking for a little bit of extra Sukkot Shalom, a little bit of extra sheltering presence. Tonight we hold in our heart Lod Ackerman, Dale Anderson, Julie Arnheim, James Barrett, Les Berkowitz, Alex Botkin, Jennifer Burnau, Joey DeLuca, Dina DeMoss, Joanne Mandel DeWitt, Ann Fay, Jessica Fondy, Virginia Frank, Mark Greenberg, Richard Gordon, Aryaman Halalka, Naum Kaplan, Sylvia Kasparowski, Al Camper, Todd Cart, Ruth Leff, Isabel Leindecker, Judith Levison, Susan Lothar, Beatrice Jean B.G. Morrison, Marco Matsara, Fred Oringer, Lev Podorovsky, Jonathan Robeson, Harold Bud Roth, Oliver Scheibel, Aharon Ben Shimon V'Yosefa, Nelson Shook, Bill Stein, Drew Tomasi, Helen Marie Tyree, David Wallach, Dr. Malcolm Weiss, Ralph Wise, and Eliza Bat Yakir V'Olga. Any other names? Misha Berach Avotenu V'Imotenu Avraham Yitzchak V'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yivarach V'Yirapeh Et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all those who are ill.
Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai haborei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael.
And Vashamar now on page 44.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz u'ayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash.
We're now to page 48, page 46. Page 46. For the meditation, the opening meditation for the tefillah, as you're able, please rise, and we'll be turning the pages for the even numbered pages.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai Adonai, Magen Abraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Ata gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayei kol atara v'hoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, mechalkel chaim bechesed, v'chayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rafeh cholim, u'matir hasurim, u'mekayem emunato lishenei afar. Michamocha bal gevurot, u'midon melach, melech memid u'mechayem, u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom ya'alelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. On page 55 at the top of the page, we read together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day.
May all who
Suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day.
May all
Who despair find purpose.
May all who
Hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. And on page 57, a prayer for prayer. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levavdecha yirah na'avod. The top of page 59, a prayer of gratitude. Read together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us.
For all these and more we offer thanks.
Baruch
atah Adonai, hatov shemecha, u'lechana'eh lahodot.
The last prayer of the tefillah is one for peace. We ask for great, big, abundant peace, Shalom Rav. Reading together on page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praise to you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael. Shalom. We continue now with our own silent prayer.
Ve'gyol libi lefanecha libi lechanecha. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri ve'goali. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri ve'goali. Adonai Tzuri ve'goali.
So I can see if I can raise this up here. Yeah. So how many of you remember Free to Be You and Me?
I was in it at EKC.
What?
I was in it when they did it at EKC years ago.
So it's 50 years old in this year. It was released 50 years ago. First it was an album, I think, and then it was a book. It was a book, an album. I was already in junior high school, so I don't know. But I do remember, and some of you probably remember the opening song, because it sort of outlays a vision of a kid's utopia, or really not just a kid's utopia, just like a utopia, right? There's a land that I see where the children are free, and I say ain't far to this land from where we are. I mean, in 1972, there was a lot of work to be done in terms of helping people feel free to be who they were. That project became a gold record, a television special, a book, a foundation, a play, and sort of an iconic, right? An iconic idea of what it means to be able to express who we were. And I think at the beginning, 1972, beginning of the women's movement, beginning of like a whole movement for people to begin to be more comfortable and to be more, for people to be more comfortable with who they are, and for the world to be more inclusive in understanding a wide variety of people. So 1972, 50 years ago, was just sort of beginning. 1972, gender roles were pretty strict still. The first woman was ordained as a rabbi in 1972, and if you can recall back to what you were doing, if you were around in 1972, you probably had some pretty clear ideas of what boys did and what girls did. And anyone who actually felt free to be anything they wanted to be was probably an outlier. Like, I think a lot of us sort of had like this path that we knew we were supposed to take, and most of us, I have to be honest, like didn't question it very much. But Marlo Thomas, she recognized the sort of the challenge, and she had vision, and she also had personal connections to work on a collection of stories and songs and poems that would ultimately tell kids and their parents, probably most especially, and importantly, that there was more than one way to be a person. Marlo Thomas, for those of you who are a little bit younger, her father was Danny Thomas, who was an entertainer, and his friends included amazing comedians, Milton Berle, Sid Caesar, George Burns, and Bob Hope, and that was her father's friends, and she was used to having them around, so she gathered playwrights and authors and poets and musicians, and together they sat around a table and they talked about what they would have wanted to be told as children. And one of the writers, Herb Gardner, responded, "I would have liked to have been told that it was all right for a boy to cry." And if you remember the Free to Be You and Me album, Rosie Greer, big, tall lineman, I think he was, for the NFL. He did go to Penn State, yeah. So big guy, and he sings a song, plays guitar. I'm not sure he's really playing guitar, but he might be, because it turns out that he does needlepoint, and he's written books about all different kinds of crafts and things. So anyway, so he sings, I watched the video of it, it was pretty amazing. He sings, "It's all right to cry. Crying gets the mad out of you. It's all right to cry. It might make you feel better." Which doesn't sound very revolutionary, but for 1972, right, it was kind of revolutionary, which is interesting that it was such a revolution in 1972 for us to be able to say that it's okay to cry, because probably, even though I would say my grandparents and my parents didn't feel that it was okay to cry. Our biblical ancestors actually cried quite a bit, including in this week's Torah portion, Vayigash. This portion contains one of the dramatic high points of the book of Genesis. We're almost done with the book of Genesis. We're almost finished with the story of Joseph. If you've been here every week, then you know where we are in the story of Joseph, but a quick recap for those of you who haven't been. So in this portion, Joseph reveals his true identity to his brothers. So up until this point, so Joseph's brothers, they threw him into a pit, and because he was spoiled and sort of egotistical, and told them his dreams about how they would bow down to him. They ended up coming to Egypt because there was a famine in Canaan where they lived, and so they came to Egypt. He was highest up in command, giving out food, and they came to him for food because there was no food where they lived. He accused his brothers of being spies. He knew who they were right away. They had no reason to know who he was because they had no idea that he would have been there. He accused his brothers of being spies. He listened in on their conversation, which they didn't know that he could understand their Hebrew because he was supposedly an Egyptian. He bound and detained one of the brothers, and he framed two brothers for acts of theft, and he really demanded that his youngest brother, be there. Now, at last, in this week's portion, there's all this drama, there's all this tension, and Joseph finally sheds this harsh exterior, and he bursts into tears in front of his brothers. It's a moment so stirring and emotional that even in the Talmud, the rabbis talk about crying with this pain of this expression of grief and relief and forgiveness and anger and pain. By the time he has this burst of emotion, he's been holding back his tears for quite a while. His brothers come back with Benjamin. He's so consumed by emotion that he leaves the room so he won't cry in front of them. But he manages to hold on without crying until his brother Judah makes an impassioned plea that he be detained instead of Benjamin. So, and Judah speaks of the sorrow that would overcome their father if the other brothers were to return without Benjamin. He wants them to leave Benjamin there. I'm not doing a great job of telling the story, but it's in the Torah. So if you want to, you can read it. So he wants them to leave. He wants to have Benjamin there. Judah says, no, we couldn't possibly do that. It would kill our father. And he makes this impassioned plea. And we think about what it would have been for Jacob to lose this child. And for Joseph thinks about this, and it just opens up all of his floodgates, and he cries. He dismisses all of his attendants, and then he announces to his brother, I am Joseph. Is my father still well? First thing, I am Joseph. They have no idea. And he sobs so loudly that all of the Egyptians can hear him, and all throughout Pharaoh's palace, people hear him weep. So he's really showing a lot of emotion. And it could be said that Joseph's sobs continue to reverberate through the generations because we can kind of feel, if we really read that story carefully, we can understand the tension, the drama, the pain, all of the anguish that family went through, and how much of a situation it would have been. Judah, who says, take me, don't take the other brother. So there's a tremendous amount of emotion. I think pretty much everyone is feeling free to be who they were. They're really clear about their emotions. It has been said in our tradition that words from the heart enter the heart. So when Judah opens his heart, Joseph can hear. His words enter Joseph's heart. When Joseph allows himself to sob, that pain is coming from his heart, and that's when reconciliation and forgiveness can begin to happen. So that is the tears, the opening, the honesty of being who they were is what really allows a forgiveness and a reconciliation to take place. There's another word in the portion that I'd like to mention, and that is when Joseph reveals to his brothers, the text says, Bahit vada. He made himself known. He reveals who he is. Right? I'm going back to the free to be me, right? He reveals exactly who he is. The root of the word is to know, but in this case, it's to cause himself to be known. So he causes himself to be known to his brothers. He reveals himself to his brothers, and they are going to respond to that because he is acting from his heart, and they're going to hear it from his heart. So I really have a rather short message after all that, but I really, at the end of the year, when we do our thinking about, the end of the secular year, we can't help it. People are doing reviews of movies and books and political events and whatever, news stories. We can't help but to do a little bit of review of our own, even though it's not technically it's not the Jewish New Year, but it is a new year that we participate in. I think that if we can get ourselves to the place where we can be known, we can know ourselves, if we can make ourselves known to ourselves, and we can think about ways that we can make ourselves known to others, and that we can be real and honest and be true to who we are, then I imagine that this could be a year of reconciliation, a year of forgiveness, a year of growth in all different kinds of ways that only you know from your own lives and only I know from my life. So in the spirit of Joseph and his brothers, in the spirit of 50 years of free to be you and me, I would like to invite us to look forward to a new year in which we can cause ourselves to be known and which we can feel more and more free to be who we are, free to be you and me. Shabbat Shalom. We turn now to page 282 for Aleinu. Please rise as you are able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לבני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ, ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Kaddish is on page 294. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and all those whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died within the last week, for whom we're still in Shiva, Constance Blank, Jana Rosen Kahn, Stephen Weiner, Gloria Kleiman, Milton Michaels, and also those who died within the last 30 years, 30 days in the Shloshim period, mark Aaron Rich, Dorothy Mates, Muriel Moldorf, Zola Munter, Dorothy Sternberg. And also we observe the yard site of Mayor Barenfield, Joel Bernstein, Marjorie Kalman, Rachel Savage Ellenbogen, Judge Henry Ellenbogen, Jules Kolos, Clara Cooper Klein, Patricia Klingensmith, Robert Marin, Yetta Massoff, Howard Reel, Bell Shook, Richard Shook, John Smurd, Herbert Stanley Weisfield, Lawrence Weisenbaum, Florence Bluma Wise, and John M. Wolfe. Any other names for Kaddish tonight? Zichronam Livracha, may all their memories be for blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad yivrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. B'gala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei almaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudasha b'rechu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushvechata v'nechamata, tamiran b'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, huya aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen.
Our closing song will be on page 330, Lo Yisagoy. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and neither shall they learn war anymore. Is that on page? It's not on page 330.
Oops. No,
Hold on.
sorry.
We'll
my
find
bad.
it. It's on a
Thank
different
you.
page. You know how I knew that? Because it's in alphabetical order. Page 341. Page 341. Thank you, Cantor Laura Berman. Thank you, Luke, for making a scene at Heard. It was a pleasure to be with all of you tonight. Scott, happy birthday in a couple days, right? January. Well, because my kid was born January 1st. You were born? Yeah, sorry.
But Lo Yisagoy turned out to be an interesting choice because if we could, then we could be free to be you and me and all of us, right? Lo Yisagoy el goy cherev lo yilmedu od milchama lo yisagoy el goy cherev lo yilmedu od milchama. Make it around if you like.
Is on page 5. I forgot to say that I won't be here for 2 weeks. I'm leaving for Israel on Thursday. I'm going to be a rabbi on a trip called Honeymoon Israel. So just me and 20 newlywed couples.
Oh, that should be.
No, it's not just me. There's one other third. We're the third and fourth wheels. Page 5.
That should be lovely. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, בשבת קדשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. חיים.
Please come get some challah. Bring your books, if you will, back to the cart. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And Happy New Year.
Sure, okay, and Happy New Year.